G'day legends, g'day superstars. Now, if there's one thing that's been brought up in the AFL supporter world, AFL clubland over the last number of years, and especially over the weekend, it's the AFL Academies. We saw Ross Lyon having a crack at the Gold Coast Suns and their academy picks, the Nepo babies, etc. And this is not something that's just been sitting idling for a week or two. This has been going on for a long, long time. But the issue is no one actually gives a true account of what's going on. When did it all start? When did the academies come into play? Who has control? Who doesn't have control? And more importantly, are the allowances given to the Gold Coast Suns and GWS too much? Or is it in their right? Because if we don't have them, the clubs aren't going to survive. I don't have the answers. The AFL don't seem to be giving the answers. So I've reached out to my number one Gold Coast supporter. He's been a long-term loyal listener, but more importantly, you would have seen him in our season previews at the start of the year. I know him as rampaging Thom Roker, but he, in my eyes, is the expert about the history, the reasoning, and more importantly, what is currently going on and why is there byplay between the two clubs. Tommy, great to have you again, my friend. I'm just going to simply throw it out there because we may need to take a few steps back when it goes to the history to get a few steps forward. How did we sort of get to where we are with the academies? Why is there so much infighting between, as an example, St Kilda and Gold Coast? We know GWS have had their academies. Carlton have had some interest years ago in terms of accessibility, etc. Can you just explain it to the commoners like me? How did we get to where we are right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, without going into ancient history, the modern priority picks, they came back when Brisbane were rubbish and got a priority pick. I think it was an end of first rounder, so it wasn't anything great. Brisbane won flag last year, Peps.
No.
So priority picks do actually, but Brisbane have also got an academy and father sons, and that's more of the reason why they won the flag. I can't remember who I think it might have been Brandon Starcevich they got from memory, but that might not be right. But that's not the point. The point is priority picks were thrown aside, and the only clubs that got any sort of picks like that were set-up clubs, Gold Coast and then GWS. So when Brisbane finally was so garbage after their 1-away 5 and all that kind of thing, down the bottom of the ladder, not looking like getting anywhere, they got a priority pick, and it helped, okay? So when it came to 2018, and the clubs that were at the bottom of the ladder in 2018 were Carlton, they win 2 games that year.
Yep.
Gold Coast won maybe 5 or 6 games,
yep.
And St Kilda were down there as well.
Yep.
And those 3 clubs asked for priority picks, and the AFL Commission came back and they said, St Kilda, the reason you're at the bottom of the ladder is that you're no good at drafting. You could have had, you picked Paddy McCartan, but you could have had guys like Bontempelli or Cripps. You could have had, you keep on picking these studs. And I mean, the draft can be a bit of a crapshoot, but they could have been they could have been winning grand finals with the caliber of picks that they had because they went down to the bottom.
Okay.
Now they climb their way up into finals every now and then. So the AFL Commission said, you've actually got a reasonable side that can compete. You don't need concessions, and that put them in. That they put them in their place, but that certainly didn't make them very happy.
Oh look, I've been saying for weeks that they are in the friend zone. They don't get any action at the top. They don't do anything downstairs. They just sit there and go, where are? It's almost the Bermuda Triangle. It is where nobody wants to be. Them and Essendon are the 2 clubs that just sit there and don't seem to go up and they don't seem to go down. They just sit in mediocrity. Okay.
Well, the Bulldogs are similar to that, but they're a little bit more successful because they have actually had a bit of September success.
Yep.
Unlike, St Kilda did win a final. It's just Essendon who can't.
No, they got to many grand finals, St Kilda, but they just couldn't get the toe poke of doom. That set them back. The draw. So they've been unlucky. But that was 2000. Yeah, that was 2010. We're now in 2025. 16 seasons past, And they really haven't done anything since. Yet other clubs
Well, they don't
have. It's pushed forward.
They don't have a great legacy from their players who come from the 80s and 90s, whose father-sons for other teams like Geelong and Hawthorn and obviously Brisbane now with their, and Brisbane are only in the middle of their father-son. There's more to come. And we imagine what eventually with the Richmond and the Hawthorn generations made. So there are clubs who do really well out of father-son, and the Bulldogs probably should be mentioned there too. They got a few. And so that's another thing for the Saints. They're like, well, they haven't really done very well out of father-sons, and so we're going to really complain about the most vulnerable team, the team with the least money, Peps, in the comp, the Gold Coast Suns, the least money. And that's not
Hold on. You're saying the least money. They've been given a fair whack by the AFL. Are you saying least amount of money generated by any club, including GWS?
Well, during COVID, the Suns had their money cut in half. Other clubs lost a couple of million each.
Okay.
The Suns, and to a lesser extent the Giants, were given. Even my cat's upset about this. The Suns were the ones who got slugged the worst, and it was also bad timing for the Suns in terms of their salary cap. They were really at the 105% stretched mark, and back ending. And they had
to pay that. They had to pay that. That was one of the rules.
Yeah, well, other clubs negotiated with their players and said, just we'll give you 90 cents in the dollar, and the players went, well, that's fair because the AFL has imposed this, so let's all just take a pay cut.
Yep.
The Suns couldn't do that because those players would have just gone, all right. Imagine Jack Lukosius or Isaac Rankin, who have left since, being told, we were going to give you $1 million or $800,000, but we're going to drop it by 100, 200 grand. Is that all right?
Well, I think that adds a little bit to the character. But that comes to the character of the player as well, too. Like, I know 100, 200 grand is a lot of money, full stop. But if they, what, I want to be here for the right reasons, then, and if they leave because of that, well, maybe they should have been leaving in the first place as well. I've got something to bring up, right? So these academies, the NGAs and the academies, the whole purpose of them is you have your targeted regions. We know about Queensland, etc. It's a community engagement. You get some draft concessions in relation to it. There's been a number of rule changes over the years. My club got affected by some rule changes because of one player, and then they've gone back to the old one, which we'll talk about very shortly. But is the current system working for all clubs, or is it mainly working for the northern clubs?
Well, I mean, let's look at the zones. So Sydney have got the biggest zone in Australia with population, but it's rugby league country. GWS have got a smaller zone, but they've got Canberra, and Canberra is an AFL town.
Yep.
All right, and it always has been. And players like Hurd, more recently. Tom Green.
Yep.
They've produced Josh Bruce. So they've produced good players over the years for such a small place.
Yep.
So they go all right, but they were given the Riverina Peps. They were given big part of New South Wales that's south of the Barassi line, and that's where guys like Wayne Carey come from,
Wagga Wagga country, yeah.
They got Jeremy Cameron, all these brilliant players. And the Suns zone is all the parts of Queensland that are not very AFL.
Okay.
So Brisbane just gets that chunk of southeast Queensland and Brisbane across southern Queensland there, which is mainly AFL and rugby league, of course. The Gold Coast is kind of, I get a bit of flack for saying this, but my experience of growing up on the Gold Coast was it was rugby league number one, definitely Aussie rules number two.
Yep.
Their VFL team Southport, which tipped in $10 million for the Suns when it was GC17, they're the richest club in Australia. They made two grand finals over the last 3 years in the VFL.
Yeah, they're a powerhouse.
Another one.
Yeah, they're a powerhouse.
And half the team is ex-Suns players. So they're not complaining. They're getting more junior development. So anyway, but the Suns zone is most of Queensland, but it's all of the unpopulated parts, Peps.
Okay.
It'd be lucky to be 2 million people, be less than 2 million people. The Lions have got almost 3.5 million. So we actually have the South Pacific. So we send people to PNG and Fiji and Numia. We send people to do coaching clinics to promote AFL in Darwin, in Far North Queensland, Western Queensland, Central Queensland. So there have been some players who've come out of that from the academy, like Jack Bowes, plays for Geelong now. We've still got Caleb Graham and Alex Davies, who come from Cairns. We have just delisted a kid who we got found in PNG, brought him down, sent him to school, put him through the academy, and then put him on our Category B because he's not an Aussie, so he doesn't have to go through the draft. And he was really good. It's just the squeeze of your list, and you're always delisting good players. So the Suns have had to do a whole lot of work in all these areas to try to find the next big thing. And it just so happened that all the work the Suns were doing on the Gold Coast with the Gold Coast community and all the junior clubs on the Gold Coast that benefited from having an AFL club around have produced these juniors, Peps. And they're high quality juniors, but they probably would have played basketball or rugby league or soccer or athletics. They probably wouldn't have gone down the AFL track because it's before the Suns were there, every 5 years you might get an AFL player.
Yeah.
Now it's every year and it's multiple players because the Suns, through their private sponsors, have put $2 million a year into this academy that is bigger than the Eagles Academy, bigger than the Dockers Academy, which have half of Western Australia each. Right? It's bloody massive. It goes overseas. It includes other countries, and that's for the girls as well, right? And the reason that the Lions and the Suns got AFLW teams in is because the Suns were producing so much female talent, and it was all benefiting all the other clubs. And then they brought in the Suns AFLW team early, and they're still producing, 5 players every year. And some of them are going off to other clubs. So half the players that the Suns are producing in the female side of the academy are playing elsewhere. And they're big names. A couple of them came back, but not everybody.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be happening this year, Peps. There's 8 boys, at least 8 boys, could even be 10, who will get drafted. And the Suns can't get them all. So the whole AFL is going to be, they're not going to be getting the best few, but the Suns aren't necessarily going to be picking them in order of best quality. They'll be picking them in order of, do we need a running halfback? Well, no, we've got Noble and we've got Brioli. We might only need one running halfback. If there's a second one that gets bid on a pick 20, that might not be a bid that we match because there's a couple of more kids that we like for the position. So, it's really about, I guess, to put an end on that thought. In 2018, we went to the AFL and we said, all of our best players are leaving. We picked these players from Victoria and South Australia, and they want to leave after a few years. And we've barely developed them up to being at an AFL level where, they probably would have a chance of being in other successful teams first 2. So they leave. What are we going to do? And the AFL said, make your own players. You've been given an academy. You've got a chance there.
Yep.
We're not going to cap the amount of money you're going to spend. You're going to have to spend your own money. And that's what we did. And now everyone's jealous.
Okay.
Go and make your own players, but don't do it that way.
Okay. So here's my thoughts on the whole thing. I like the academy. All right. I'm also a big fan of father-son. I'm sort of separating them out, but they are kind of linked, and you'll see why in a minute.
Yeah.
What frustrates me now is that the draft, which is supposed to be fair and square for everybody, to a degree, is now being skewed by so many ways. If you trade for a first round draft pick, let's just say top 10 park, you get a top 10 pick. That could be now be pushed back as far as maybe late teens, maybe early 20s because of all the academies, the father sons. It is becoming compromised, and you've got the ability to get the top end talent. You get it out of a slightly discounted rate. And I know they say, oh, but we give up points, and you don't really give up anything in my eyes big in relation to it. So as an example, if you say Jed Walter was a academy pick?
Yep.
Okay, what did he go at?
3.
What did you just had a collection of points to take him, correct?
Oh, yeah, we traded all of our early picks, which we had been gathering in advance, trading picks.
Did you have a first-round pick for him?
Into the future. We traded all of our picks in such a way that we trade like pick 5 back to pick 10 and then pick 10 back to pick 20. Other clubs were benefiting Peps because we kept on trading these good picks, and then within the rules at that time, we gathered all of these points.
I'm fine with
right, that. And then as the players, and 3's pretty early for Jed Walter. All right, Nick Dacos was Gold Coast to put a bid in on Nick Dacos, and he went at 4.
Yeah.
Will Ashcroft and Levi Ashcroft didn't go early. Why were they? Why did the Suns have to? Exactly. It was St Kilda who put the bid on Leo Lombard at 9 last year.
And there's another one as well too.
And he could have drifted out to 15. Yeah. So we are paying. Clubs are making it.
Okay, so you're paying it. But what my frustration of it is that they try and make all these rules. They try and make all these bits and pieces to try and figure it out. My simple philosophy would be, Jed Walter is going to be potentially a first-round draft pick. You just know that, right? You should, as part of your package, have a first-round draft pick to go for him. Not just a collection of second-rounders and third-rounders and you bundle them all up and you use that. I think you have to give up something specific to go there. Now, as an example, if you say Leo Lombard isn't a first-rounder, he's a second-rounder. Okay, cool. He's a second-rounder. You can go there. But if you think that he might go a bit earlier, then you're gonna have to find 2 first rounders. Can you see what I'm saying here? Because and I think that would just even it out for everybody, because if no one bids on him, you can then use that pick to pick him up. If you really want him, you can pick him up with that pick. So that would simplify it. Same with father and sons. If you know Nick Dacos is the best player in the league and he's going to be a first round draft pick, you should have your first pick in the draft being a first rounder, because if nobody bids on him, then you pick him up. I just think that the fluffy stuff down the bottom just gets, and then you know what? If he doesn't go, you can then trade that pick down into a second rounder and then trade it on the night to a third rounder and then go back up. I think that there's some merit in that, but I don't know how it's going to work. So St Kilda have come out and had a crack at your mob. You have also had a look at some of the names that have come in on the Sydney Academy. Like, we're not just having a go at the Suns, but you're just an expert all round on this. I speak to some people and they go, I'm looking at what you've got coming up in this draft. How many potential first rounders would you say are out of your academy picks, like legitimate first round picks, if they weren't in the academy?
There's 2 ways to approach this. So what I'll say, right, because people are hyper-inflating things. It's only the end of May. We have to wait till the end of July before we see what all the youngsters can do. But there's definitely 5 Suns players who've been identified 2 years ago. So in the end of 2023, so 18 months ago, there was Bo Adensel, Dylan Patterson, Zeke Uland, the younger brother of Bodie.
Bodie.
And a guy named Jai Murray, and a fellow named Kalani White. Now, starting with the end, Kalani White is the son of Demons 200-odd game player Jeff White, and Kalani has been produced for 6 years in the Suns Academy at our cost, to the benefit of the Melbourne Demons, congratulations, well done.
Well, until his name is read out,
he's not going to be top 20. And the reason I say that is because ruckmen don't really go.
No.
You know, so Luke Jackson was an outlier.
Yep.
Tim English was end of first round.
Yep.
Kalani White, I kind of think, and because he's Melbourne, I kind of suspect him to drift a bit.
Yep.
There were only 2 ruckmen taken in the national draft last year. One of them was with the very last pick. Ruckmen these days, they just don't attract high bids.
Yep.
So he's not going to be coming to the Gold Coast. So there's a AFL Academy. So the AFL Academy have said that he's the best 25 talents in the league, which doesn't always translate to the draft order. So so Jai Murray is injured and he wasn't named in the AFL Academy. He was the only one out of that 5 who didn't go on to be named of it. But he is still a very good player. He's been injured. He'll come back eventually, but he probably isn't top 20. But guess what? He's a rugby league convert. So we have
through with them.
This player that would never have been available for anybody else. And so therefore, hooray. And he's got a younger brother who's even more talented because he's been in the footy system for longer and he's coming in 2 years. So that's good. The 3 players who could even go top 10. So Zeke is he's predicted to go number 1.
Yep.
Now, club-tied players don't tend to go number 1, but if he does, that's only a 10% discount now, Peps.
Yeah, it used to be 20, didn't it? Now it's 10?
It used to be 20. Yeah, 10%. So 2,700 points. So let's say if Port Adelaide comes in the bottom 6, that's the pick that'll get used up. And a bit more on top. So the Suns will probably trade that, but they won't trade it far back. So someone will benefit from being able to trade up to a good pick, and the Suns will probably have used their picks that they'll have, because the Suns have got Port's pick, Collingwood's pick, and their own pick, which they gave up Jack Lukosius and a first rounder last year.
Yep.
So it's a fair price to pay to be able to afford the academy kids this year, right? A pick 1 and a pick 13 and a bit of extra change. And Rory Atkins, who did play for Port on the weekend. So it's the Gold Coast have paid a price to get into this year's draft to match their players, and half those points could go on Zeke if somebody. Now, let's say St Kilda is bidding at number 5. He won't get past that, will he? In fact, they'll probably bid on the next bloke. Now, the next bloke is a guy named Bo Adensel, and he's a genuine footy fan, and he's a good player. The other fellow is Dylan Patterson, who's really going up with a rocket up the charts. He had offers from 5 rugby league clubs, 5 NRL clubs who could have stolen him off the Suns, but they put so much work into him and just assured him, you are going to be an AFL player. You've got all the skills, and this is why. But he could have been a reverse Carmichael Hunt.
Yeah,
he could have been out the door or been playing for the Broncos instead.
So I got a question, right? Is the academy, and we're just like bring it to its pointy end right now, because I'm starting to get a really good breakdown of why they were brought in, the reasons why we bring them in. With the southern clubs, and I'll say the southern clubs because they're the ones who are causing it or saying it, is the way the academy's set up right now and what clubs are paying for them. Is it just a case of, because the Suns are now winning and players probably don't want to go as much, and there's more quality kids coming through the academy, not just some average ones, and that's no disrespect. Clubs are kicking up a fuss because, hold on a second, you're getting access to these really young kids that we can't get access to, even though they've put in 5 or 6 years of development into them. And now because you're winning and you've got a coach up there that's winning and the kids out there are actually growing into men, is this why they're kicking up a fuss? Because no one was complaining, I think, 5 years ago when you weren't, there was a bit of a murmur, but as soon as some success comes in, well, why can't we get a slice of that pie as well too? It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. But you weren't complaining when we were sitting on the bottom of the ladder and players are leaving left, right and centre.
I mean, one of the fan bases that whinge the most about the Suns are Richmond.
Yep.
They come in and got Dion Prestia, and then they come in and got Tom Lynch, and they got Josh Caddy from Geelong, but Caddy was the first Suns player to leave, and he was a high draft pick. Yep. So they've benefited. Stephen May left for reasons of his own, and we got pick 6, which was Ben King. So eventually that sacrifice has worked out, and we did get the ability to pre-draft Sammy Collins, who I would argue is as good as Stephen May nowadays.
He's a younger Stephen May. Yep.
You know, we have done all right out of the concessions, but I mean, to answer your question, it isn't really the academy that is the thing. It's just that there have been concessions along the way, and some of the academy players that the Suns have gotten, they were free.
Yep.
Okay, so but not exactly household names. Like Joel Jeffrey's in the current AFL team, and he's going all right.
Like him.
Alex Davies, he's not in the current AFL team. Could be, exactly.
Leon Lombard will be playing his first game hopefully this weekend.
Leon Lombard, yes. Yep. But I mean, I'm telling you, the players we got for free.
Yeah.
Right? So we've been matching bids for the last few years and paying for it, and now they've made the points system more expensive and reduced the thing. So your point about the Suns, if they have an early, so let's say they get a bid in at pick 3.
Yep.
Well, they probably have to have the equivalent of pick 5 to match it. So they will trade picks, but they'll just bundle up a whole bunch of picks in the 20s. And what happens then is so if the Suns do have 3 players in the first round, they'll trade all their picks back, but not far, and they won't really be able to get super value because those picks in the 20s have been devalued. And so what will happen is each bid will come in and be like bang, 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 and there'll be 6 or 8 picks that add up to all those points. But then all of the picks after that, Peps, all the picks, so let's say it's 8 picks that the Suns use for points for 3 players. Each pick, obviously, that's 1 extra pick in the draft, so they all go back by a point. But 8 picks means that all the other picks behind them come in by 5 places.
Yeah, so you're sort of robbing Peter at the top, but you're getting Paul.
Their guy. Yep. It's compression.
So people don't think about that. They think about the first part's going to get stretched, but the back end will move in. So something will be actually worth a lot less to buy than with what you've got.
There were picks last year, because last year's draft was over 100 picks in the end when you include the rookie draft. And there were picks last year that were coming in from way back because there were a lot of bids matched and a lot of points, and all that was going on. But all these picks were coming in and people were trading ridiculous amounts for a pick that started out as pick 50 and come into pick 35. So there are bargains to be had at the end there. It's worth holding on to your 4th rounders and 3rd rounders. And there are clubs who do that really well and the clubs who don't do it so well. And the Suns are one of those teams who have never done it very well. Probably the only second-round pick that we've ever had that's been any good was Tuke Miller.
Oh, gun.
We've
gun.
thrown away
Eastern District Football League, superstar. All right. Rapid fire questions for you, Tom. I want to wrap this one up. First and foremost, option here. Should clubs be limited to 1 father-son pick every draft?
No.
Should clubs be...
No.
No?
I have to say no. Leave the father-son. It's perfect.
Okay. Academy picks. Should clubs be limited to 1 academy discounted player every year, and then from everyone else that you pay full price?
No, I think they should implement what the FLW has, which is that you must have a pick within 18 picks of that.
That's what I would prefer. I think I like that one a lot more.
Okay. Yeah, or you can make it within 10.
Yep. Oh, I think 18. I think 18 is fair because if things get pushed out, etc. I like that. Gold Coast Suns are going to be making finals, in my humble opinion. Will they be finishing in the top 4 this year? Before, are they?
They say that it's the easiest. They say it's the easiest draw, or the second easiest draw, but that's only because the Suns are at the top of the ladder.
Yep.
If the Suns were at the bottom of the ladder, they'd say they had the hardest draw.
No one would say that.
There are a lot of home games coming up for the Suns. Seven games, including this weekend.
Yep.
7 games at Carrara.
Yep.
We've only played there twice, and we're on 8 wins.
Yeah, I like it. Second last question. Did the Melbourne Football Club get shafted when Mac Andrew ended up at the Suns?
Yes, however, welcome to the Demons, Kalani White. He also has a brother in the academy who's 14, or under 14s, tracking well. He actually has 2. They're twins, actually. But the other twin isn't in the academy. That doesn't mean he's no good. Maybe he likes to play basketball.
Who cares?
Maybe he's the nerdy one who's going to study and become a doctor.
I appreciate you
accepting a late bloomer.
Melbourne got ringed.
Nick Hooland has a twin, and he's not playing footy, or he's not. You know. So yeah. But there are an awful lot of ex-players living on the Gold Coast with their kids in the Gold Coast Academy. Jonathan Brown.
Yep.
Right, so Jonathan Brown's 2 kids run around every weekend in Suns uniform.
Oh, that's a shame, isn't it?
Who do you think they're going to pick when it comes to if Jonathan Brown's daughter is the first one? Is she going to stay with her friends at the Suns?
No.
Maybe she doesn't care. Maybe she'll just say, "Oh, piss off, Dad. I'll play with my friends." The son, it'd be 1,000,000 to 1 that he would ever pick the Suns. If his grandfather played for Fitzroy, his father played in 3 flags and was captain of the Brisbane Lions, if he's at the quality, there's no way he's staying.
No. And last question, and this is for the St Kilda, some advice for St Kilda. Should St Kilda stop investing in whinging and complaining to the AFL about this sort of thing, and maybe spend some more money investing in DNA testing for their players and only draft those ones who are capable of having boys?
I don't know if there's ever been an example of an illegitimate father-son. I think that we're there. I think there should be a stepfather-son, to be honest.
I don't mind the stepfather, especially if they've been in their life for more than 10 years. Stepfather-son, illegitimate son, father-daughter. I don't know if there's a father-daughter. There's so many options. But when it comes to the academies...
Brother-daughter, mother-son.
I think the academies is going to be...
It's perfect. Great system.
It's going to be a bigger beast. I don't know how they're going to do it with the Southern realm, but I think the Northern realm.
Your idea of having a one club-tied player could actually be something for the AFL to consider, to have zones again,
that's where we started,
not free for all.
No,
and maybe not in the first round, but maybe clubs can sort of say, well, we've got a player who's been in our local area and have more affiliation between the Victorian junior clubs and the AFL clubs. I know that VFL got rid of zoning when they brought in the draft. AFL kind of came out of that. It's like, okay, the difference between AFL and VFL is now we don't have the zones. We're trying to put a salary cap in. So it seems like a backward step, but NGA... it's not great. And St Kilda do have a good NGA system. They do invest, and they like Melbourne. Yes, the Demons were they were hard done by missing Mac Andrew. Yep. Mind you, they didn't take his brother Riak Andrew, which they could have. But the fact of the matter is, the Saints and the Eagles were the 2 teams, maybe the Bombers, you could sort of say, they were the teams that really put investment into their NGAs and had years and years of contact with them and bringing them in for camps and, doing everything they needed to do just in case, you bring in 30 kids through and then only one of them, makes it to the draft. And all of a sudden these clubs couldn't, so that wasn't the solution. But then you've got guys like James Borlase, who's at Adelaide, and he was born overseas, but he's born to a white middle-class family.
Yeah.
Ted Closey from Geelong, his brother plays for the Suns.
Yep.
He plays for Geelong because the family moved down to Victoria. So the old man's a principal. And then Geelong, because they're good, they found out that the Closey boys, their mother's from South Africa.
No.
And so it was too late for Sam, and he wasn't in the Geelong system enough, and it was COVID and all that. But Ted is a Category B rookie under NGA rules, and that's not really the spirit of it, Peps.
No,
so
yeah, but if clubs can bend the rules, they will bend the rules. We know that's how it works. It's just a part of it. It's about these are the rules. How can we work around it? Formula One, NASCAR, tennis, cricket, you name it. The rules are there for structure. If you can get around it, you will be fine. Tommy Roker. Sorry, I think go for it.
I'd like to say one thing to St Kilda fans, and I've already talked up your NGA, and let's face it, they have had some very good NGA picks, so, double standards there. But what I'd like to say is the father-sons coming for the St Kilda Football Club, they've never had good ones, but they're about to get a flood of them. And they'd want to have a second think about trying to get the father-son limited or restricted.
It would be a pisser if they did.
Themselves in the.
It would be a pisser if they'd actually shot themselves in the foot. But you should never throw stones in glass houses. And I think they picked up a boulder on the weekend. Maybe when they're thinking about throwing the next one, they might just want to put it down because it could crack any chances that they have in the future. Look, I think I've got more of a clear understanding with the academies. It's a win-win for the northern clubs. The southern clubs, you just have to, think about it. You've got the opportunity to bid on them. Okay, they're not going to take every single one. Maybe we can meet in the middle there. Listeners, viewers, superstars and legends, the great Tommy Roker. I told you, when it comes to the academies, he is the man, the Gold Coast debonair. He is the rampaging one. Hopefully you've got some clarity. If you've got any questions, queries, drop it into the chat. And don't hesitate to join the channel and share this. All the Gold Coast Suns supporters, share this video with as many people so you can get an understanding of what's going on with these academies, because it's opened my eyes a little bit. And hopefully, if we can open not a couple of, old eyes, some fresh ideas around. Tommy, you're a dead set superstar, but I have one question for you, and it is simply this. Thom Rampaging Roker up there in Queensland, how do you want your academy picks?
As many of them as possible, but as I keep getting told by my peers in the Gold Coast Suns fan base, you can't keep them all. And there are this weekend. There's something like 25 ex-Suns Academies players playing in the VFL Sandford Waffle system. So there's benefit for everyone, but. How would I like Leo Lombard racing up the wing and kicking it to me in the forward square? Lace out.
So do I, everybody. Let us know what you think. Take care, everybody.